Rome, 64 AD. Flames still lingered in the city's ruins as Emperor Nero sought scapegoats for the Great Fire. In the gathering dusk, a crowd assembled near Vatican Hill. Among them stood an elderly man, his weathered face bearing the marks of decades preaching across the empire. This was Simon Peter, once a simple fisherman from Bethsaida, now facing his final moments. The Roman guards led him to the cross, but Peter made an unexpected request. "I am not worthy to die as my Lord did," he declared. "Crucify me upside down." The crowd watched in stunned silence as the guards honored his request, perhaps moved by the dignity of this condemned man. As Peter hung there, his voice remained strong. He spoke not of hatred for his executioners, but of the love he had witnessed in Christ. Even in death, he continued teaching, his words carrying across the hill to both believers and skeptics alike. For 2 days, he preached from the cross, his unwavering faith touching even some of the hardened Roman soldiers who stood guard. This was the price of faith in first-century Rome, a price Peter paid willingly, transforming a brutal execution into a powerful testimony that would echo through centuries. They began as ordinary men, fishermen mending their nets by the Sea of Galilee, a tax collector at his booth in Capernaum, zealots dreaming of revolution. 12 men from different backgrounds, chosen to walk alongside Jesus and carry his message to the world. None of them were scholars from Jerusalem's elite. None held positions of power or influence. Yet these unlikely choices would reshape history through their extraordinary courage and unwavering conviction. In the years following Jesus' resurrection, they scattered across the known world, from the bustling streets of Rome to the distant shores of India. Each carried the same message, though they would meet vastly different fates. Some would die by the sword, others by crucifixion. One would live to old age in exile, while another's name would become synonymous with betrayal. Their stories of faith, sacrifice, and transformation continue to inspire millions today. But what drove these men to accept such violent ends? What sustained their faith as they faced torture, exile, and execution? The answers lie in a remarkable journey that began in Jerusalem and spread across 3 continents. Their missions would challenge powerful empires, threaten established religions, and ignite both fierce persecution and devoted followings. In Rome, they would face the wrath of emperors. In Jerusalem, the hatred of religious authorities. In distant lands, the resistance of ancient traditions. Each apostle would face a crucial choice: renounce their faith and live, or hold firm and embrace a martyr's death. Their decisions would test the very foundations of their beliefs and reveal the true cost of discipleship. These are their stories, not just of how they died, but of how they lived, what they believed, and why their legacy endures 2 millennia later. First-century Rome was at the height of its power, stretching from Britain to Egypt, from Spain to Syria. In this vast empire, religions mingled freely, as long as they didn't threaten Roman authority or refuse to honor the emperor as divine. The streets of Rome teemed with life, merchants hawking their wares, soldiers marching in formation, slaves carrying messages, and priests performing sacrifices to countless gods. The empire maintained order through military might and political cunning, while social life centered around the patronage system that bound rich and poor in complex relationships of obligation. For the early Christians, this presented unique challenges. Their refusal to participate in emperor worship marked them as suspicious. Their message of a crucified savior seemed foolish to Greek philosophers and offensive to Roman sensibilities. Their acceptance of all social classes, slaves and free, rich and poor, threatened the established order. Each of the 12 brought unique strengths and personalities to their mission. Simon Peter, the impulsive fisherman whose bold leadership earned him the name the Rock. Known for both his fierce loyalty and momentary doubts, he would become the foundation of the early church. Andrew, Peter's brother, known for his humble approach and skill at bringing others to Jesus. The first called among the apostles, he showed quiet strength in his ministry. James and John, the sons of thunder, fishermen whose fiery temperaments matched their fervent faith. Their mother's ambition for them would transform into selfless service. Philip, the practical thinker, always calculating costs and possibilities, yet quick to share his faith with others. Bartholomew, the scholar among them, initially skeptical, but ultimately unwavering in his devotion. Thomas, forever remembered for his doubts, yet whose questioning led to profound faith. Matthew, the former tax collector, whose meticulous nature served him well in recording Jesus' teachings. James, called the less, only in stature, his steady presence provided stability. Thaddeus, the courageous one, taking the gospel to dangerous territories. Simon the Zealot, once a religious revolutionary, he channeled his passion into spreading the gospel. The dynamics between the apostles reflected the complexity of their mission. Peter, James, and John formed an inner circle, often present at pivotal moments in Jesus' ministry. Their close bond sometimes created tension with the others, particularly when James and John sought special positions of authority. Brothers worked alongside brothers, Peter with Andrew, James with John, their family ties strengthening their ministry. Matthew's background as a tax collector initially set him apart from Simon the Zealot, who would have normally despised such Roman collaborators. Yet their shared faith bridged these social divides. Philip often worked closely with Bartholomew, their complementary personalities, one practical, one scholarly, making them effective partners in spreading the gospel. Even Judas, before his betrayal, was trusted enough to manage the group's finances, indicating the deep trust that once existed among them. After Jesus' resurrection and ascension, the apostles faced a daunting task, spreading their message across the known world. From Jerusalem, they branched out along ancient trade routes, following a strategic pattern of evangelism. Peter ventured west to Rome, the heart of the empire, where his message would reach people from every corner of the world. Andrew traveled north to Greece, establishing churches in regions where Greek philosophy had long dominated thought. Thomas journeyed east, tradition placing him as far as India, where he encountered vastly different cultures and belief systems. Their methods adapted to local contexts. In Jewish communities, they began in synagogues, explaining how Jesus fulfilled ancient prophecies. In Greek cities, they engaged with philosophical debates in public squares. Among Roman citizens, they often started with household congregations, using the empire's social networks to spread their message. They established networks of churches, appointing local leaders and maintaining connections through letters and messengers. Despite persecution, these communities grew rapidly, attracting people from all social classes, slaves and free, rich and poor, men and women, creating a new kind of society within the existing order. The apostles faced relentless obstacles in their mission. Language barriers forced them to rely on interpreters or learn new tongues. Cultural differences led to misunderstandings and resistance. Physical challenges included treacherous sea voyages, bandits on dangerous roads, and the constant threat of illness in foreign lands. Local authorities viewed them with suspicion. Jewish leaders saw them as dangerous heretics corrupting ancient traditions. Roman officials feared their growing influence could destabilize the empire. Pagan priests perceived them as threats to their temple's income and authority. They faced internal challenges too. New converts needed teaching and support. Disputes arose between Jewish and Gentile believers over customs and practices. False teachers emerged, distorting their message for personal gain. Resources were scarce, with many communities struggling to support themselves while helping others in need. Society's reaction to the apostles' message varied dramatically across different regions and social classes. In Jerusalem, early converts came primarily from the working class, craftsmen, merchants, and priests who recognized Jesus as the promised Messiah. However, the religious establishment saw this new movement as a dangerous threat to their authority. In Greek cities, intellectuals initially dismissed the message as foolishness, but some philosophers found themselves intrigued by its logical consistency and moral teachings. Among Romans, the response split along social lines. Wealthy families often rejected a faith that threatened their privileged position, while slaves and the poor found hope in its message of spiritual equality. Women, particularly in urban areas, responded enthusiastically to a teaching that valued them as equals in faith. This dramatic shift in social dynamics often led to tension within families and communities as converts faced difficult choices between their new faith and traditional obligations. In Rome's crowded streets, Peter's presence commanded attention. The former fisherman had grown into a powerful preacher, his voice carrying the authority of one who had walked with Jesus. His ministry in Rome focused on building a community that transcended social boundaries. Slaves and masters, rich and poor, gathered together in house churches. Under Nero's reign, tensions escalated. When fire devastated Rome in 64 AD, the emperor sought scapegoats. Christians became targets, and Peter, their leader, was a prime target. Despite urgings from his followers to flee, Peter remained. His arrest came during a pre-dawn gathering of believers. In prison, Peter continued teaching, even converting some of his guards. When sentenced to crucifixion, he made his famous request to be crucified upside down, declaring himself unworthy to die in the same manner as his Lord. His death became a rallying point for the early church, demonstrating that faith could triumph over terror. Andrew's mission. Andrew took the gospel northward to Greece, where his straightforward approach resonated with both philosophers and common people. Unlike his brother Peter's dramatic style, Andrew's quiet strength drew people through personal conversations and genuine concern for their lives. In Patras, he found both success and opposition. His converts included Maximilla, wife of the Roman governor Aegeus. This high-profile conversion brought unwanted attention from authorities who feared political instability. When ordered to renounce his faith and sacrifice to Roman gods, Andrew refused. Aegeus ordered his crucifixion on an X-shaped cross, hoping to break the apostle's spirit with a prolonged death. For 2 days, Andrew hung there, teaching those who gathered to watch. His calm acceptance of suffering and continued preaching of forgiveness deeply moved even his executioners. The legacies of both brothers endured. Peter's martyrdom in Rome established that city's importance in Christian history. Andrew's death led to his veneration as patron saint of Scotland, Russia, and Greece, his X-shaped cross becoming a symbol of unwavering faith. Their different approaches, Peter's bold leadership and Andrew's quiet evangelism, demonstrated how diverse personalities could serve the same mission. While Peter built the foundation of the church in Rome, Andrew's influence spread through the quieter channels of personal ministry, each brother faithful to his calling until the end. James, son of Zebedee, earned his place in history as the first apostle to face martyrdom. In Jerusalem, where tensions between Jewish authorities and the growing Christian movement reached a boiling point, James became a primary target. His powerful preaching and status as one of Jesus' closest disciples made him particularly threatening to the established order. Under King Herod Agrippa I, who sought to curry favor with religious authorities, James was arrested in 44 AD. His trial was swift, but his courage remarkable. According to early accounts, the guard who led James to his execution was so moved by his testimony that he declared his own faith in Christ and chose to die alongside him. James's death by beheading sent shockwaves through the early church. Yet rather than deterring believers, his martyrdom strengthened their resolve. His final words of forgiveness for his executioners became a powerful testimony that inspired generations. John's endurance. John's path differed dramatically from his brothers. As the beloved disciple, he took responsibility for caring for Jesus' mother Mary. His ministry eventually led him to Ephesus, where he established a strong Christian community. Under Emperor Domitian's persecution, John faced exile to the island of Patmos. Unlike his fellow apostles, who met violent deaths, John endured years of isolation. On Patmos, tradition holds that he received the visions recorded in the Book of Revelation, providing hope to persecuted Christians across the empire. After Domitian's death, John returned to Ephesus, where he continued teaching well into old age. His message focused increasingly on love, God's love for humanity and the importance of Christians loving one another. According to tradition, in his final years, when too weak to walk, he would be carried to church meetings, where he would simply repeat, "Little children, love one another." The contrast between the brothers' fates, James's swift martyrdom and John's long life of exile and teaching, demonstrated different forms of witness. James showed that faithfulness might require the ultimate sacrifice, while John proved that patient endurance could be equally powerful in spreading the gospel. Together, their stories embodied Jesus' prophecy that some would drink his cup of martyrdom quickly, while others would serve through long years of trial and testimony. Both paths required extraordinary courage and unwavering faith. Philip brought a methodical approach to spreading the gospel. In Phrygia, modern-day Turkey, he established a systematic ministry that combined practical help with spiritual teaching. His analytical mind, which once calculated how to feed 5,000 people, now tackled the challenges of building sustainable Christian communities. In Hierapolis, a city famous for its healing springs and pagan temples, Philip's ministry flourished. He performed healings that drew people away from the cult of Apollo, earning both converts and enemies. The city's pagan priests, seeing their influence decline, plotted against him. Philip's death came after converting the proconsul's wife to Christianity. Enraged, the proconsul ordered his arrest and crucifixion. Like his master, Philip continued teaching from the cross until his final breath. Bartholomew's journey. Bartholomew, also known as Nathanael, took the gospel to Armenia. His scholarly background helped him engage with Armenian intellectuals and priests. He even converted the king's sister, which initially protected his ministry, but ultimately led to his demise. The pagan priests, alarmed by Bartholomew's growing influence, convinced the king that this new faith threatened traditional Armenian religion and culture. The king's order for Bartholomew's execution resulted in one of the most gruesome martyrdoms among the apostles. According to tradition, Bartholomew was flayed alive and then crucified. Yet even during this horrific torture, he continued to preach, his courage impressing even his executioners. His death became a powerful testimony in Armenian Christian tradition. These companions in ministry, though different in approach, Philip the practical organizer and Bartholomew the scholarly evangelist, shared the same fate. Their deaths demonstrated how the gospel threatened established religious and political powers, yet their legacy helped establish Christianity far beyond Jerusalem's borders. Thomas, known for his initial doubts about the resurrection, became one of Christianity's most daring missionaries. He ventured further east than any other apostle, reportedly reaching India. His analytical mind, once questioning, now served him well in explaining the faith to new cultures. In India, Thomas encountered sophisticated religious traditions and complex social structures. He focused his ministry on both the royal court and the common people, establishing churches that bridged caste divisions. His success in converting several Indian rulers and their families eventually led to his downfall. Near Chennai, Brahmin priests, threatened by his influence, incited opposition. Thomas was speared to death while praying in a cave, his last words a prayer for his attackers. Today, the Thomas Christians of India trace their origins to his ministry. Matthew's final witness. Matthew, the former tax collector whose detailed gospel would become a cornerstone of Christian scripture, brought his methodical approach to missionary work. After writing his account of Jesus' life, he traveled to Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, Matthew's background helped him connect with both officials and merchants. His understanding of commerce and administration aided in organizing new Christian communities. He established churches that combined Jewish traditions with Christ's teachings in ways that resonated with Ethiopian culture. His death came during a church service. According to tradition, Matthew was stabbed from behind while praying at the altar. The king who ordered his execution had been angered by Matthew's criticism of his moral conduct, particularly his treatment of consecrated virgins. Both Thomas and Matthew died serving far from their homeland, their deaths demonstrating how the gospel penetrated diverse cultures. Their legacies live on in unique Christian traditions, the Mar Thoma churches of India and the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. James, son of Alphaeus, often called James the Less, to distinguish him from James, son of Zebedee, worked tirelessly in Jerusalem's early Christian community. Despite his quieter nature, he became a pillar of strength during the intense persecution under the Jewish authorities. His ministry focused on bridging the gap between Jewish converts and Gentile believers, a crucial role in the early church. The Sanhedrin, troubled by his effective leadership and growing influence, demanded he publicly renounce Christ from the temple pinnacle. Instead, James used this opportunity to proclaim Jesus' resurrection to the gathered crowd. Enraged, his opponents threw him from the temple height. Surviving the fall, he began to pray for his persecutors. A fuller ended his life with a club, even as James offered forgiveness to his killers. Jude, Thaddeus, also known as Judas, not Iscariot, carried the gospel to Mesopotamia and Persia. His ministry was marked by bold preaching and reported healings that drew many to the faith. He worked closely with Simon the Zealot, their partnership proving effective in establishing churches throughout the region. In Persia, Thaddeus's success in converting people from Zoroastrianism alarmed the religious authorities. The local magi saw their influence waning as more people turned to Christianity. They persuaded the king that this new faith threatened the stability of the Persian religion and state. Thaddeus faced his execution with remarkable courage. According to tradition, he was beaten with clubs and then killed with an axe, yet maintained his witness to the end. His final words were a prayer for his executioners, following the example of Christ. Simon's transformation from political revolutionary to spiritual ambassador stands as a powerful testimony to Christ's influence. His previous life as a zealot, fighting against Roman occupation, gave him unique insights into the struggles of those seeking freedom. In Persia, where he ministered alongside Thaddeus, Simon's passionate nature found new purpose in spreading Christ's message of spiritual liberation. His ability to speak to both the politically motivated and the spiritually seeking made him particularly effective. According to tradition, Simon met his end in Persia through martyrdom. His death came through being sawn in half, a particularly brutal execution meant to discourage his followers. Yet even in death, his unwavering commitment inspired many to examine the faith he preached. Judas Iscariot. The story of Judas stands in stark contrast to his fellow apostles. As treasurer of the group, he held a position of trust, yet his eventual betrayal of Jesus for 30 pieces of silver became synonymous with treachery throughout history. After leading soldiers to arrest Jesus in Gethsemane with a kiss, Judas found himself overwhelmed by guilt. Unlike Peter, who repented after denying Christ, Judas could not face what he had done. According to Matthew's Gospel, he tried to return the money to the priests, declaring he had betrayed innocent blood. When the priests refused the money, Judas threw it into the temple and went out to hang himself. His tragic end serves as a warning about the destructive power of guilt without repentance and the danger of allowing other loyalties to supersede devotion to truth. The contrasting fates of these final two apostles, Simon dying faithfully for his beliefs, Judas taking his own life in despair, provide a powerful conclusion to the apostles' stories. The stories of the apostles' deaths come from various historical sources, each providing different pieces of the historical puzzle. The New Testament itself offers limited information, primarily recording only James's execution under Herod Agrippa and Judas's death. Early Christian historians provide additional details. Eusebius, writing in the 4th century, documented Peter's crucifixion in Rome and Paul's beheading. His ecclesiastical history draws on earlier sources, some now lost to time. Physical evidence includes early Christian burial sites and inscriptions. The Vatican excavations revealed a 2nd-century shrine marking Peter's believed burial place. In India, ancient churches and monuments testify to Thomas's presence and ministry. Written records from various regions add to our understanding. Clement of Rome, writing around 96 AD, mentioned the martyrdoms of Peter and Paul. The Acts of Thomas, though containing legendary elements, preserves traditions about Thomas's mission to India. Early church calendars and martyrologies record the apostles' feast days and death locations. Archaeological discoveries continue to provide context for these accounts, revealing details about the cities where the apostles worked and died. The reliability of sources about the apostles' fates varies significantly. Some accounts are well documented, while others rely more on church tradition. Historians generally consider several factors when evaluating these sources. The earliest sources, particularly the New Testament and 1st-century writings, provide the most reliable historical foundation. Later accounts often include both historical facts and embellished details added over time to inspire believers. Some martyrdom accounts are better attested than others. Peter's death in Rome has strong early documentation, while details about more distant missions, like Thomas in India, blend historical elements with local traditions. The consistency of multiple independent sources adds credibility. When different regional traditions record similar facts without apparent coordination, historians generally consider this supportive evidence. Archaeological findings have sometimes confirmed details from written traditions, strengthening their historical value. Archaeological findings continue to illuminate the Apostles' world. In Rome, excavations beneath St. Peter's Basilica uncovered a 2nd-century shrine marking what early Christians believed was Peter's burial site. Nearby graffiti and inscriptions suggest early veneration of the spot. In Turkey, ancient Hierapolis reveals ruins where Philip reportedly preached and was martyred. The octagonal martyrium structure, dating to the 5th century, indicates early Christian commemoration of his death there. Indian archaeological sites include the traditional tomb of Thomas in Chennai, with architectural elements dating to early Christian periods. Ancient crosses and inscriptions support the antiquity of Christian presence in the region. Jerusalem excavations have revealed 1st-century streets and buildings where James and other apostles would have walked and preached. These discoveries help reconstruct the urban environment of early Christianity. The apostles' martyrdoms profoundly shaped Christianity's growth and character. Their deaths transformed a small Jewish sect into a movement that transcended cultural and geographical boundaries. The way they faced death became a powerful testimony. Their willingness to die, rather than renounce their faith, convinced many that they must have witnessed something extraordinary in the resurrection. This created a pattern of faithful witness that inspired generations of believers. Their scattered missions established Christianity's multicultural character. Peter's death in Rome helped establish that city's importance in Western Christianity. Thomas's mission to India created Eastern Christian traditions that continue today. James's martyrdom in Jerusalem preserved the connection to Christianity's Jewish roots. The apostles' deaths also influenced Christian theology and practice. The concept of martyrdom became central to Christian identity. Their examples showed that following Christ might require the ultimate sacrifice, yet their peaceful acceptance of death distinguished Christianity from violent revolutionary movements. Their different backgrounds, fisherman, tax collector, zealot, demonstrated how diverse people could be united in faith, establishing a pattern of inclusion that helped Christianity spread across social boundaries. Today, sites associated with the apostles' martyrdoms remain important pilgrimage destinations. St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, built over Peter's traditional burial site, draws millions of visitors annually. The Santiago de Compostela in Spain, linked to James's legacy, remains one of Christianity's most important pilgrimage routes. In India, the Santon Basilica in Chennai marks Thomas's reported burial place, while Armenian churches preserve Bartholomew's memory. The Church of the Holy Apostles in Constantinople was built to house apostolic relics, though many were later scattered during historical conflicts. These sites served multiple purposes: preserving historical memory, providing places for worship and reflection, and connecting modern believers with their spiritual heritage. Annual feast days commemorate each apostle's martyrdom, maintaining their individual legacies in Christian tradition. Museums worldwide house artifacts and artworks depicting the apostles' lives and deaths, making their stories accessible to modern audiences. The apostles' stories continue to offer relevant lessons for modern times. Their transformation from ordinary people to extraordinary leaders demonstrates how conviction and purpose can overcome personal limitations. Their diverse backgrounds show how unity can exist despite differences. Their responses to persecution provide examples of maintaining principles under pressure. While facing opposition, they chose nonviolent resistance and continued teaching, rather than retaliation. This approach to conflict remains relevant in today's divided world. Their willingness to cross cultural boundaries to share their message offers lessons about bridging cultural divides. Each adapted their communication while maintaining their core message, a model for modern cross-cultural dialogue. Their different paths, from Peter's leadership in Rome to Thomas's distant mission in India, show how various roles and approaches can serve the same purpose, offering encouragement to those seeking their own path of service. The apostles' stories represent one of history's most remarkable transformations, how 12 ordinary men helped change the course of human history. Their journeys from local fishermen, tax collectors, and laborers to influential leaders who shaped a world religion demonstrate the power of conviction and purpose. Their martyrdoms were not mere tragic endings but powerful testimonies that gave credibility to their message. Each death, rather than silencing their teaching, amplified it. Peter's crucifixion in Rome, Thomas's spearing in India, James's beheading in Jerusalem, each became a seed that helped Christianity take root in different cultures. The diversity of their backgrounds and approaches created patterns that would define Christianity's growth. Peter's organizational leadership, John's emphasis on love, Thomas's questioning faith turned to certainty, Matthew's detailed recording of events. Each contributed uniquely to a movement that would eventually span continents. Their greatest legacy perhaps lies in showing how ordinary people can impact history through unwavering commitment to their beliefs. They faced opposition, not with force, but with conviction, choosing to die for their faith rather than abandon it. The apostles' experiences resonate with contemporary challenges of maintaining convictions in a changing world. Their struggles with opposition, cultural barriers, and personal doubts mirror modern experiences of those who stand for their beliefs. In today's globally connected world, their example of crossing cultural boundaries while respecting local customs offers valuable insights. The way they adapted their message for different audiences, whether in Jerusalem's synagogues or Athens' philosophical circles, provides a model for cross-cultural communication. Their responses to persecution, choosing nonviolent resistance and maintaining dignity even in death, speak to modern conflicts where principle meets power. Their example shows how moral authority can triumph over physical force. The diversity within their group, from Matthew the tax collector to Simon the zealot, demonstrates how people of different backgrounds and viewpoints can unite around shared principles. This has particular relevance in our increasingly divided world. Their transformation from ordinary individuals to influential leaders offers hope and inspiration for those seeking to make a difference, showing how commitment to principles can overcome personal limitations. The apostles' legacy endures not just in grand cathedrals or ancient texts, but in the timeless principles they embodied. Their lives demonstrate how ordinary people can achieve extraordinary impact through unwavering commitment to their beliefs. Their stories remind us that great movements often begin with individuals willing to stand firm in their convictions. They showed that true strength lies not in forcing others to accept our views, but in living our beliefs with such integrity that others are inspired to examine them. In their martyrdoms, they proved that some principles are worth dying for, and in doing so, they gave life to ideas that continue to influence millions today. Thank you for watching this exploration of the apostles' remarkable journeys. What aspects of their stories resonated most with you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective on these extraordinary lives that shaped history. If you found value in this historical journey, please consider subscribing to Sacred Chronicles for more deep dives into biblical history. Your support helps us continue creating content that brings these important stories to life. Don't forget to like this video if you found it informative, and share it with friends and family who might appreciate these powerful stories of faith, courage, and unwavering conviction. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll uncover more hidden stories from history that continue to inspire us today.